There we go.
That's much better. I was thinking it was me. I was like, why couldn't I get frozen and not you? How are you doing?
It figures we got 5 days in a row, and then it's my internet. You can't win.
Where are you?
I'm in Brooklyn, so I'm in our brand new finished basement. I created a little. This is my Shaun Clancy set. We got the Irish hat, the cheddar, the butter, Nolan Ryan. Yeah.
Nice, and the celebrity and the commemorative beer bottles, which are always good.
Yes, exactly. I figure you have so many of those that would be a very Shaun Clancy thing.
Actually, I think right now we have a lot of beer bottles, but most of them are full of beer.
Exactly. Fair enough. Just put your questions. There's actually a little question mark at the bottom. You can type your questions for me and Shaun. As you're hopping in, we'll get to them over the course of the show. Shaun, you're just saying you're in Florida and you've been there for what, about a month?
I actually, to be honest with you, Jesse, I had come down for February. I turned 50 in February, and my gift to myself was, you know what, I'm going to take the month off and spend some time in Florida. Nice. Weather's nice, not a lot going on, and, you know, get ready for the season. And, you know, and I had come back up to get ready for St. Patrick's Day. And also a good buddy of mine, Dave McReynolds, has a party out in Phoenix every year for the Scouts in Arizona. So this was the first year that I could go to the dinner. So I came back up to New York, you know, get ready for Paddy's Day, get ready for the Big East, and head for Phoenix when, you know, this started. So when they canceled the Big East and St. Patrick's Day, I said, you know what, I'll come back down. My girlfriend, Christy, she was back here. Obviously, she's covering the Yankees. She's still covering the Yankees. I think she's writing as we speak. And, you know, so I came back down here. I'll be honest with you, not realizing, you know, it was going to be
right
like it is.
I don't think any of us did.
No one did. You know, no one did. You asked me what I wanted to call the show.
We'll get to that in a minute. Hold on,
okay.
I can introduce you first.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Clearly, you've been paying attention, though. That's good. So, Shaun Clancy, you're the owner of Foley's New York Pub and Restaurant, founder of the Irish American Baseball Hall of Fame. Introduce yourself to everybody. You're a philanthropist. You do so much for the community. Tell us about yourself and how you got involved with baseball, scouting, all that.
Jesse, just one thing. I don't like big words like philanthropist. I also got called an entrepreneur. I don't like big words that I can't spell.
Fair enough.
So, well, as you said, I'm the owner of Foley's. Recently joined the 50+ club. I've been in New York probably for about 30 years. Been at Foley's for 16 years. And, you know, I mean, it's baseball is a big part of my life. You know, it's, you know, my kids, Ryan and Emma back in Ireland, I'm not sure if they signed on or signed off or what have you. I'm rather new to this whole Instagram business.
We're all figuring it out together.
They, you know, they refer to Foley's as the third sibling. And, you know, you asked me about the connection to Scouts. I was probably lucky in that the first two Scouts I ever met was Tom Giordano, our good buddy T-Bone, yep, and Stick Michael with the Yankees. So, I mean, that's a pretty good place to start.
That's like legendary place to start. Yeah.
Very, very legendary. Followed actually very closely by one of your members of the clan in the Northeast, John Koziak.
Okay.
John's with the Mets right now. And, you know, and I guess through listening, I mean, Scouts always have the best stories. That's, you know, I mean,
sure,
you know, and that's, I'm keep waiting for one of them that's going to finally write a tell-all book, maybe like a Dan Jennings or a, you know, like
Dan's got a lot of stories.
You know, he certainly does. I mean, guys like him, you know, Bob Schaefer. There's legend, Billy Blitzer. You know, yep, our very own Billy Blitzer. I mean, there are so many guys. I mean, like you said, I love nothing more than when you get a handful of Scouts together and you hear, they start to tell you stories of, you know, like what things they've done, places, because you've got to remember, most of these Scouts, especially minor league guys, they're not, you know, I mean, they're spending a lot of time in podunk towns that we've never heard of.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, you'll get everything from guys getting arrested, guys getting hit by a deer, guys getting hit by one scout told me one time the car got hit by a buffalo.
Oh my God! Really?
You know, and that was my introduction. You know, and I learned a lot about the game of baseball from, you know, sitting with these guys and you know what to look for and what's, you know, and you know, I mean, I got to see another side of the great game of baseball, you know, I try to do what I can to help the scouts. There are three groups of people in baseball that mean a lot to me. Scouts are one of them. Also the umpires and the writers. Yeah. And I got to be honest with you, the support that I've gotten from both the, you know, from all three of those groups since this happened. I mean, I kind of feel guilty. I mean, these guys are reaching out and asking me how I'm doing. I'm doing fine. All my family is fine. All my staff are fine. Everybody's healthy. Everybody's safe. And truthfully, that's all that matters. You know, everything other than that, you know, I mean, it's very cliched, but I live my life by a very simple edict, and that is, I don't worry about what I don't control. So that's why for right now, it's, you know, I mean, my goal every week is to make sure that I get the staff paid. And once that happens, then it's fine. And thankfully we've been able to do that, and we're going to be able to do that for as long as this is going to go on, I hope. You know, and then when the time comes and we get ready to open Foley's, then we'll take that. You're
going to get quite a surge that first day, man. It's going to be.
I mean, you know what? Hey, you know what? We'll be there, and we'll be there to, you know, I'm not going to say we're going to open, well, we're not going to say we're not going to charge, but we're definitely going to do our bit to certainly make sure and maybe be able, if we can help in some little way, you know, to take people's minds off what they're doing. I mean, there's a lot of people doing a lot of, you know, Herculean work out there. I mean,
absolutely.
I mean, and not just the doctors and nurses and all the people, the first responders, but I mean, even the guys working in, you know, the 7-Eleven and the Publix down here, or whether it's the Stop and Shop up there. I mean, you take a job working in a grocery shop, you don't think you're going to be in the front lines of dealing with, you know, a pandemic.
Yeah.
And I tip my cap to each and every one of those, and I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, okay, what can I do to help? What can I do to help? I mean, and for right now, what I can do is I can take care of the people I can take care of, and plant my ass on the couch and do what I'm supposed to do.
Before I even intro the show now, you gave me another question. So you mentioned the umpires, the writers, the scouts. What draws you to those people behind the scenes that maybe other people don't know about, or, you know?
Two things. One is, in the game of baseball, I'm a firm believer that if you take those three groups of people out, there is no game.
100%.
Because it's the scouts that are, like you said, who are, you know, who are banging the bushes and beating the bushes. I mean, think about it. The greatest player in the game right now is Mike Trout.
Yep.
He came out of New Jersey, and the part of New Jersey that people don't go into.
Right.
But you know, so I mean, if it's not for scouting, he doesn't get a shot because he's not in Florida, he's not in California, he's not in one of the sexier markets. I mean, George Springer, who, you know, was signed by our good buddy, John Koziak.
Yep.
And, you know, I mean, okay, now we have the phones and we have everything on it, but think back to when we started.
Oh, yeah.
When we started first watching baseball. How did we learn about baseball? We read about it. So whether it was, you know, it's a little different for me, obviously, because I was a little older when I came here. But I learned so much about the game of baseball by reading about the game of baseball. And lastly, you know what? I mean, you can have those 50 guys in uniform and put them out in the field every day, but unless those 4 guys in black or in blue, whatever they're wearing that day, there's no game. You know, and the other part of it is, you know, I mean, the players, okay, you can say, well, the players are a big part of the game. Yeah, okay, the players are a big part of the game. But the players, I mean, they're traveling, you know, and they're in their private jet, not the private jets, but the charters and all the rest of it. You know, they might complain here or there. The umpires, the scouts, the writers, you know, they're on their night games where they get finished right at 1 o'clock in the morning. And they have to get up and be on a 6 o'clock flight because they have to be in Cleveland.
Right.
You know, and they're away from home. And that's the other part of it is, I mean, like some of the umpires, they can be away from home for
months. Yeah.
Oh yeah, months at a time. So Foley, what I always want to do is I always want people to feel welcome with Foley's, but I also like the fact that those guys feel that because they spend 6 months of the year on the road. So if there's for 3 nights or whatever it might be, that there's somewhere that they can come where, they're going to be welcomed, and there's so, where they can sit and we can, shoot the shit and you know what, it's not, it's not like a Buffalo Wild Wings, or it's not, that's why those 3 groups, and like you said, every time you sit down, you're going to hear a story. And the great thing is,
or 4.
The great thing is, well, if Billy Shearer is there, it's 4.
Yeah.
But the great thing about it is that you put those guys together, and they know nothing about each other, and all you have to bring up is Marriott points or airline miles. That's all they want to talk about.
Exactly.
They have everybody's got a guy. They got a guy who can get them a good rate in Boise, or somebody else who's pulled some stunt about, getting on how to get on a flight before everybody else does.
Yeah.
That would be Sal Agustinelli, by the way, of the Phillies. And that's why those people mean. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not that everybody that comes through the door in Foley's is the same. I mean, I don't believe in this, VIPs. Everybody's a VIP. But I do enjoy the stories, and I do enjoy the camaraderie. And baseball's a family. I mean, sadly, it's beginning to change over the last couple of years as the propeller heads, as somebody called them, have taken over. But it's very much a family, and they've always taken care of their own, and it's nice when you can take what I consider to be the 3 most important parts of the game. And, and I have some of my closest and dearest friends are in those 3 groups.
Oh yeah, and Christy just joined. Hey Christy, hi to everybody that's joined in. We got 17 people watching. You can use the question mark at the bottom. Just type your questions. We'll put them on in a little bit. So Shaun, we got the Fayetteville Woodpeckers, the Hickory Crawdads, the Kannapolis Cannonballers. So there's this company that helps name minor league teams, and they've done all these polls, come up with wacky names. We were the Tiger Baseball. Kevin Kiernan named it as an homage to the really popular Netflix thing.
We were. I was in on that Tiger King way before. We had watched that probably 2 weeks before anybody else.
Really?
Oh yeah.
You're ahead of the trends here.
I was like, you know what? I mean, it's funny because every day something else happens. Whether it's like Cardi B starting a thing for Joe Exotic, or the band that played all his music got a contract, and now they're looking into Carl. But that's the one thing. I think Carl Baskin is guilty.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, but.
You heard it here first, or 25th, but you heard it here.
Yes.
So what should we call the show, Shaun?
Well, I came up with 2. I could say one, which would be Safer at Home.
Okay.
Or we could call it Shaun Clancy's ABCs, anything but COVID.
That's I like that one, honestly. For this, maybe the second time we'll do the not so safe one, but we're in the middle of this. Shaun Clancy's ABCs is a good name. All right, so let's hop into it. I need you to explain something to me. We've kind of alluded to a little bit of this, but your pub is a self-proclaimed Irish bar. You're Irish, right? It's got a baseball attitude, but it's located in Manhattan. It's owned by you. You didn't start watching baseball till 30 years ago, well into your life, into your adulthood. And it's named after a famous baseball writer that didn't do most of his writing while you were even probably alive. So what's the deal? How did Foley's come to be?
Okay, so now you've asked a lot of questions in one question. So the first part of it was, yes, I grew up in Ireland where we didn't have a lot of baseball, but my parents had been married here, and I was conceived here and born in Ireland, but they had a lot of friends who stayed here, and then they became like those aunts and uncles that aren't really aunts and uncles.
Right.
So when they would come to Ireland, they would bring me like journals, and they would bring me like American stuff. So I'll never forget, like I was 7 years old, and one of my mother's friends brought me like a Yankee uniform. I mean,
Really?
with the pinstripes. But I mean, listen, you know, you're that age. You don't want to stand out. I mean, and this was no one else was wearing anything like this. You know, like I told someone the story is like, you know, I got a Reggie Jackson T-shirt when I was 7, and I mean, I thought he was part of the Jackson 5. I mean, it's like black last name Jackson. He's famous. I had no idea, you know. But I did have a good friend of mine, Brian Farley, and when Brian would come home. Brian was a big baseball fan, a big Yankee fan. So while he was teaching me about Motley Crue and the Yankees, I was teaching him about soccer, Liverpool, and U2. You know, and then I started to read these, you know, yearbooks, and I had no idea who these people were. I had a Don Mattingly glove. I had no idea who this guy was. But I would read as much as I possibly could. That's how I first fell in love with the game of baseball, and was just by reading about it. And then my father had worked in the Rainbow Rooms and in Touch Shores. So then as I started to read more about it, I would find that
we got the peanut gallery going. Can you see that?
I can see he had I'd say Gary Perone's a big U2 fan, all right. And I could hey, while we have Gary, you owe me a bobblehead. Just while I have his
one.
pen.
Yeah, you know what?
Oh, listen, he's been dangling the MLB Central bobblehead over towards, you know, he got a burger, he got a baseball and on the wall, and he keeps dangling this thing, and I keep seeing it, but not in Foley's. I'll have to get back onto the Staten Island Yankees when things come up and see where that's at. So anyway, to finish the story,
ABCs is a place to air your grievances for sure.
Yes. So to finish the story, and then I found out that my father used to take care of the baseball players. My father does not like baseball. He thinks that I've taken him to quite a few. Sorry, my girlfriend tells me to get back to the story. So I've taken him to quite a few baseball games, and he thinks it's the biggest restaurant he's ever been at, because there's 50,000 people eating and drinking, and nobody's paying any attention to the game. Totally. And then I find out on a side note that he's the second cousin of Vince Scully's, but that's a different story. So to finish the story, I fell in love with baseball. So when I came here in 1991, first place I ever went was Yankee Stadium. And I will never forget, and until the day that they closed Yankee Stadium, I got chills every time. I would always sit in the upper deck with the ordinary people. But every time you walked out of the concourse and you walked up and you saw the field, and you're thinking, you know, because I mean the monuments, although they were behind the fence at that stage, but the outer wall of the old Yankee Stadium used to be the outfield wall. And you're looking down, and this is where Ruth and Gehrig, DiMaggio, Mantle, Munson, where they all played. So, you know, I fell in love with the history of the game. So that's where my love of baseball came from. When I started Foley's, I'm not smart enough to think that I was going to do what I wanted to do. I wanted to open an Irish bar, and an Irish bar from the point of view of, you know, some place where you'd feel welcome, where the food was good, the service was good, and you could come and have a good time, you know. But I did want, what I wanted to combine when I was looking for the name was obviously an Irish bar, but I wanted to have a baseball connection.
Totally.
And so what I did was I invited a group of buddies of mine to come one Sunday during football season, when I used to bartend on Sundays. And I brought them in. I said, okay, you drink for free while the Jets game is on, but we're going to come up with a name for the bar. I said, and the only thing is, it's got to have an Irish connection. And so the drinks were flowing, but the names weren't coming. And they were going on. And McEwing's came up, which is actually kind of funny, because at the time Joe was with the Mets. Joe has since become a real good buddy of mine. And in fact, you know, we have 4,000 baseballs. Joe is the first baseball.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Another name that came up was McGreevy, with an homage to Nuff said McGreevy, who's pretty much the first ever baseball fan. But the problem was that I had a buddy who I had worked with for years, whose last name was McGreevy. He was working in the bar down the street, and I thought it might be a little bit awkward. That probably worked out for the best, because 3 months afterwards, the whole scandal with the governor in New Jersey came out. And so this was going nowhere, and then out of the blue, the door opens, and who walks in but Red Foley, who was a friend of mine. And someone said, well, why don't you call it Foley's? I'm like, sounds good to me. So I had somebody, this was when you still had phone books. I had somebody say, hey, grab the phone book, look up the Manhattan phone book and see that there isn't a bar called Foley's. I probably should have had somebody who was sober at the time do it, because whoever it was didn't know how to spell Foley's. He said, no, there's no bar called Foley's. So next day I contacted my attorney, and I said, we're going to call it Foley's. He said, are you sure there isn't another one? I said, let me check. Well, it turned out that there was another one. There was a Foley's Fish House in Times Square.
Oh, geez.
So that's where the NY came from. So I said, hey, we'll call it Foley's NY. So that's where the name, yes, I've read a lot of what Red has written since.
But not before then.
Not before. And Lord rest him, you know, and like myself, Red never drank. So not only did I name the bar after baseball, I named the bar after the only guy you could find in baseball who doesn't drink. But, and again, Red was, the stories Red could tell. You know, I mean, the one story I would give about Red was covering the World Series, the 1960 World Series against the Pirates. And after every game, Red would go and sit with Murta, Danny Murta, who was the manager of the Pirates. Yep. And a lot of your people know this, but the Yankees beat the shit out of the Pirates in the games that they won. I mean, I think they scored, over the course of the series, they were like 50-7 or something. Yeah. But the Pirates ended up winning. So they went on, made Mickey Mantle cry. And so all of the, sorry, I guess my language, I'm on Instagram. This is me watching my language. So the game's over. So now all the reporters are trying to get into Murta's office. And Murta won't start it. He said, I'm not starting. He said, where's Red Foley? And of course, you've got all the writers from all over the country, all the national writers. Really? And he won't start the interview. He won't start the press conference. So Red plows down and sits down next to him, and Murta says, listen, he said, none of you were here for any of the other games except this guy. He said, I will answer all his questions, and the rest of you can go to hell. So that's the long way of telling you how the bar became Foley's. Actually, another name that was on the list was Morgan's. Okay. After Joe Morgan, and then there was a bar that opened just before we did called Morgan's. So we didn't call it Morgan's, but as an homage to Joe, every shirt that we have has his slogan, which was where everything is 6-2 and even. So it was my way of honoring him. That's awesome. So a lot of baseball that went into that, a whole lot. And I love how it just kind of walked in the door, right? You got all these people thinking, and then it walks in the door. Oh yeah, believe me, I had a think tank, not a very deep think tank, but I had a think tank of a lot of guys, and it's surprising how a lot of these guys take credit for. Oh, I was there the day you picked a name. I'm like, yeah, you were. You were half in the bag, but you didn't know to do it. Didn't do anything. That's really awesome. So we talked a little bit about how you like to give back to the community as much as you can, and with the umpires. You've championed so many different causes, suicide prevention, cancer research, the Baseball Scouts, the Umpires Association. You did that book event recently, which was super cool. Why are you so motivated to do that stuff? You know what? I've been very lucky. And I feel that if I can help out and if I can give back, that's what's most important to me. And truthfully, that's the part of Foley's that I'm the most proud of, is the fact that we have been able to help so many people. And you missed the big one, actually, and that is autism. And today is actually World Autism Awareness Day. And my nephew, Oshin, is autistic, but even before that, it's one that I've always been passionate about. But I mean, I just feel that I've been blessed and I've been very lucky. And you know what? There's a lot of people out there, and especially now, a lot of people out there who are a lot worse off than we are. And you know what? If we can do a little to help them, then you know that's what's important. And that's kind of what Foley's means to me now. I mean, that's the most. I mean, it's great to say about having all the memorabilia, and it's great to see about all the players come to see you. But it's, you know, it's really cool when you get a call from someone that said, "Hey, just to let you know that you helped to do this," and like we helped raise money to send families of like the Paralympians to the Special Olympics, or actually to the Olympics as well. But I mean, it's just a matter of, hey, you know what? If we all did a little, I mean, it's I sound like a Michael Jackson song, but if we all did a little, I mean, it would make the world a better place.
100%. And I mean, we're seeing it, and you also, I think, have mentioned you're seeing it. You've given so much over the years. Now you're seeing people wanting to help you. It comes back to you.
I mean, I have literally been blown away over like the course of the last 3 weeks about the number of people who've reached out to me to see what they can do, and how they can help, and and the people who've done it, and whether I kudos to Stacia, who handles all our social media, who I think is actually watching. She said, what can we do? So that's what with the gift cards and the shirts and the special shirts, we set up one of those pop-up shops with that special shirt, and basically all that is going to, for right now, taking care of the staff.
That's awesome.
And like you said, once the doors open and we can get money, we can get Gary Perrone to come in and spend some of that, all that money he has. We'll start to help the people who need to be helped. I mean, we did it after Sandy. We've done it after, a lot of different, too many disasters and too many that didn't need to happen. But I mean, again, it's just a matter of, and truthfully, I mean, I know going forward that it's going to be my biggest goal is that, okay, you know what, how can we help people? And it's sometimes it's as much as a conversation. Totally. Just being there for somebody, I mean, it's kind of what I've been doing since the last 3 weeks. So is just reaching out to different people, because, okay, I'm lucky enough that I'm quarantined where it's 75 degrees and, but not everybody's as lucky, and you just reach out to the people that, because it affects different people in different ways. And, just to be there for, and that's all it might take. It's just a text from someone, say, hey, just hang in there. We're going to get through this and come out the other side. And then we can really start to give it to the Astros. By the way, I think the Astros had something to do with this, because it's the only way that we could get the Astros off the paper.
Yeah, it is unbelievable how quickly they got off the hook. That was a real quick turnaround for them. So the way that you honor people at Foley's is burgers, which is like the coolest thing ever. For your 50th birthday, you mentioned before, they did a burger for you called the Big Cheeseburger. I saw the Instagram on that one, and it was stuffed with American cheese and Irish cheddar, and then it was topped with pepper jack and mozzarella. How did that tradition start? And then we can ask a couple more burger-related questions. Okay,
so first of all, of the burgers that are done, I used to do most of them. I had nothing to do with the Big Cheeseburger, so that falls firmly at the feet of Stacia, the aforementioned Stacia, and Steph, my GM. So shout out to Steph, to Stacia, and to the other manager, Shaun, for that they're keeping everybody sane and keeping everybody going up there while I'm down here. We've always had menu items on the menu where we've honored different charities, and that actually started by accident. I was playing around one day, and we had put some the Rays were coming to town, and some of my buddies that worked for the Rays, we had named some of the specials after them. Just and so lunch is over, and I'm sitting there, and who walks in? Only David Wright, and he picks up the menu, and he's like, these guys get something on the menu and I can't. So David and I have a pretty good relationship. I've known him since his first night in New York. So I started busting his chops, and I'm like, all right, genius, tell me what your favorite sandwich is. I said, it's probably going to be peanut butter and jelly or something weird like that. And so he gave me two. We had a competition, and the buffalo chicken sandwich won. We put it on the menu, and to date, I think it's probably raised about $10,000 for his charity. And for hi to Ryan Woodley, the world's greatest grounds crew from all the way in Milwaukee. Glad to see them with the internet is working in Milwaukee. But and that's how it started. So then Statius mentioned that, a lot of people say, well, how do I get something on the menu? And we decided that we would try the stuffed burgers of the week. And, something that we'd have a little bit of fun with. But it's also some way of honoring people too. Like one of the ones that we did recently that we didn't want to have to do was we did the Mrs. Met burger. And Mrs. Met was... hello to Anthony Fennick, all the way from Detroit. Wow, we're not across the country yet. We're not across the country yet, but we're getting there slowly but surely.
Slowly moving.
But so Mrs. Met was she was a customer, fanatical Mets fan, hence the name. And sadly, she passed away 13th of February. So we honored her. Sadly, it was posthumously. But it's been a way of recognizing some of the people who play a part in the game of baseball that not everybody may know. So, like you said, the aforementioned Mr. Woodley, Ryan was known. Ryan came up the ranks. Like, he was in the low A's, high A's. I think he was at Staten Island. He was with Trenton, and he was the number 2 for the Mets. And he is now so we had a Ryan Woodley burger. And again, that's part of what it's about. It's a guy that plays a very important, integral role that no one knows about. And you know what? If we get to tip our caps to these guys, so whether, it could be, we've done broadcasts. I mean, it's not, I try to stay away from the obvious ones, and I very much so try to stay away from the players unless it's somebody that I know.
Right.
And the thing is, we had planned, and we probably will, our plan this year was to kind of broaden that a little bit more because, okay, so like you said, we've mentioned umpires, groundskeepers, broadcasters, and people have said to me, well, I mean, I'm not anything like that. How do I get a burger named after me? And we were about to roll out a plan whereby you could, like, we could have so if you said, hey, I want to have this Jesse Manning burger, I'm like, okay, so here's the deal. You said, you're going to make a donation to a charity of our choice, and we will have the Jesse Manning burger. So therefore, we're giving something back, and you get to tell your friends, I'm like, hey, you can have the Jesse Manning burger.
The pinnacle of life too. It's like, you've made it when you've had a burger named after you.
Well, Jesse, when we get through all of this, we will have a Jesse Manning burger. How about that?
That's unbelievably kind of you.
By the way, we're gone international. I see a shout out to a buddy of mine, David Lovett, that I went to school with.
That's cool.
A lot of years ago, and he could tell. Thankfully, he can't talk because he could tell stories too.
Well, for those of you who are here, if you have questions for Shaun or for me, there's a little question box at the bottom for us to chat. Just type your questions in there. What is your favorite burger, Shaun, that you guys have done, and which one has meant the most to you? So favorite flavor and then favorite emotion.
Actually, favorite flavor is the one that nobody thought would work, and that was the one where we put peanut butter inside.
Elvis.
Pretty much an Elvis burger, and actually people don't realize, but when you stuff a burger, you're infusing it with that, so you can put anything into it. That was one. Ones that mean the most to me, obviously my 2 kids, Ryan and Emma, both had their burgers, which meant something to me.
Did you make those, or did they tell you what to put on them?
They told me what to put on them. Yes. Emma was one of the first because her birthday was in January and we just started it, and they were pretty special. I mean, a couple of them were special to me because of the people that we named them after. Sadly, a couple of them were posthumous. One of them that was Nick Cafardo.
I saw that one.
You know,
there was a lot of cheese on that one too.
There was, and you know, I had some input. Nick's son Ben, who's with ESPN, I spoke to Ben, and he had spoke to his mom to find out. I asked if the person too if they have a preference of what they like.
You were on Nesson for that burger too. They interviewed you. You were actually on the broadcast.
We were. Cool. You know, it was very cool. But you know, again, that's the burger I didn't want to have to do, or that's the burger that I wanted to do with Nick sitting next to me.
Oh, of course. Yeah, no, and it's cool because you're making a difference, right? If you have to do it and you don't want to do it, but if you have to, people are seeing it. Maybe they're giving to the charity. I mean,
without a doubt. And that's that. And the thing with it is, so people say, well, why do you do it? I'm like, well, you know what? You're doing. I mean, and it's going to be even harder now with, you know, I mean, there's a new norm that's coming, and actually, we can put a cupcake in if you'd like a cupcake in your
Billy
burger.
Capola over there.
Good man. Billy's a good man. Billy has some stories to tell too. You know, but the thing is, one of the reasons why we did it is that, you know, when you do a charity event, you know, a lot of times they don't have that disposable income to give to a charity.
Right.
But if you come into Foley's and you have a David Wright sandwich or the Shaun Clancy burger or whatever it might be, and you're giving to the charity by that's your support. You know, we have Foley's Ale for autism. So every time you buy a pint of that beer, you're helping autistic charities both in Ireland and here. So that's another reason for doing it. It's a chance of it's all part of the giving back. I'm like, you know what, you come in, you have the burger, and like you said, we have, you know, David Robertson was on the menu for the longest time, and that was actually a kind of a cool one because somebody reached out to me when
those relief pictures, they last forever.
Well, David was new to the Yankees, and when the tornado came through Tuscaloosa, he wanted to do something for his hometown, and his wife, someone put his wife in touch with me, and she's like, "Hi, would you give me, you know, a gift basket that we could raffle off, you know, maybe with like a gift card or a T-shirt and something?" I said, "No." She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Give me your husband for 2 hours." I said, "And I will write you a check for $10,000." And she said, "Really?" And I said, "Yes." I said, "We'll get permission from the Yankees." She said, "What he's got to do?" I said, "He's got to sit on a chair and sign autographs." She said, "But if he wants to bartend," and they all want to bartend. I said, "Okay, if he wants to bartend," but I said, "All we want is 2 hours." And so we did all our due diligence, and we made sure that everything was taken care of with the Yankees. And so the event is happening right after the All-Star break. So I had gone home, everything was okay at Foley's, and I'd gone home to watch the game at home. So I have a cross trainer in my basement, so I'm on the cross trainer watching the game, and Josh Beckett is pitching for the American League. He gets hurt, so they have to take him out. So they bring in Robertson, and so I'm on the cross trainer, and the next thing is Tim McCarver, who is a friend of Foley's and a member of the Irish American Baseball Hall of Fame. He starts talking on Fox about how David Robertson isn't nervous about pitching in the All-Star game, but he's nervous about bartending at Foley's. I fell off the cross trainer. I got 150 messages in 3 minutes. My phone actually blew up, you know. But David came, we did the 2 hours, and we actually made $15,000 for charity. You know, so I mean, it's just, hey, listen, it's all about if we can have fun and, you know, have a good time, and just, you know, for that little bit of time. I mean, look, Foley's is just, it's like Tiger King. It's something that just takes your mind off your troubles for a while, and you can come in and look at the baseballs, watch the games, get your balls busted. You're not worried, you know, and that's what life's about.
100%. We got a question right here. I think this is a cool one. So Stevie Conway says he's a personal trainer, high school, college baseball players. What's one piece of advice, non-baseball related, that we have, something scouts look for. I know immediately what comes to mind for me is the Tom Giordano. You got to have the heart, the gut,
yes,
the brains and the balls.
Cojones.
Yes, the balls.
Cojones. I mean, what if you ask me? I mean, it's respect. I mean, and that's why that's the one thing that every scout I've ever met, when they say about the scouting's a thing of the past. I think pro scouting may be a thing of the past, but amateur scouting is not, because the is Billy Blitzer
thinks you spin a good yarn.
Is Billy Blitzer buttering me up?
I think so. He must.
Billy, I'm actually auditioning to be the MC of the dinner on Long Island, but. Now the thing about it is that it's that's, as Bone said it right. Yes, you need to have heart, you need to have courage, and you need to have cojones. But the one piece of advice is respect. I mean, you have to treat people the way you want to be treated. That's all. That sounds great, but so many of these players and so many of these guys, they don't have that. They don't have the ability to talk to people or deal with people, or and that's what I would say is, like, if we all respect, it sounds great, and but that's the one thing I would say is, like, and that's kind of when you look at some of the good guys in baseball, and I think of some of my favorites in baseball, guys like David Wright, Jeremy Hefner, LaTroy Hawkins, Joe McEwing, all those guys. What have they got in common? One of the things they have in common, Michael Kadire, is their down to earthness, they're genuine, and they're good people.
And they realize that the fans are important, or that it's just they're approachable. 100%.
Oh yeah, I mean they get it, And the sad part of it is that they're not coming to work with a briefcase. They know how lucky they are, And I mean, and you know what? I don't know the guy personally, but Pete Alonso seems to be a lot like that.
He does seem that way. And Ron Washington's another guy who I've met that's just like appreciates so much all the things that he's had happen in his life.
Oh, that. Ron Gardenhire, another one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And actually, a shout out to a guy whose birthday it is today, who is in that class, is Billy Sample.
Yep.
Billy has a big birthday today, so I'm not sure how Billy gets on with Instagram, but somebody out there will tell him that we wished him a happy birthday.
Well, and we're gonna put this up afterwards too. We edit them all down, and we're gonna put them up on Facebook, so he'll see it. Happy birthday, Billy. Shaun, restaurants, we talked a little bit about it. People have been saying restaurants are hit really hard. Can't go in anymore. A lot of them have to close their doors. What are some good things? I mean, we've mentioned it, but what are some good things you've seen that maybe people wouldn't realize? The gift cards, that stuff. What have you seen that's been good for you?
For me personally, or for Foley, it definitely has been the outpouring of support. The number of people who have reached out to see what can they do, how can they help. It's been mind-blowing, and I feel guilty because there's a lot of people and a lot worse off than we are.
Totally.
You're right. I mean, listen, the thing, like you said, we don't know what to expect. We don't know what anything's going to be like in a month's time, but it's just when we get there, then we deal with it. And once we deal with it, then, we're all in this together, and we all have to help each other out. And that's, I think if we all do that, then, hope that the one thing that maybe will come out of this is the world will be a better place post.
We're going to get you doing a song, I think. You said a Michael Jackson song.
You're not going to get me, trust me, you're not going to get me to sing.
No? All right. Not today.
Not today anyway.
All right. So I'm going to do rapid fire now. I'm going to name a couple things or questions. You tell me. So we've got the butter or the cheddar. Irish butter or Irish cheddar? Which is your favorite Irish dairy?
Cheddar.
Cheddar. Okay. Yeah. Favorite ballpark you've ever been to?
Kauffman Stadium.
Kansas City. Oh, someone asked. Wait, that's in our questions here. It says, have you ever seen a game of Kansas City? You have a quick story on that?
I'm lucky enough to have been in every major league stadium. And I you know what, so you know, I kind of have a list of reasons. You know, when people say to me, well, what's your favorite stadium? And I'm like, well, you know what, it's kind of like, is it easy to get to, easy to get into, easy to park? a lot of stuff like that. But a quick story about one of the reasons why I love Coughlin Stadium. One of the first times I went, it was Cinco de Mayo, and the Red Sox were there. And Joe Castiglione is a really good friend of mine, and I would hang around with Joe, and I would go in with Joe on a media pass, so I would be there beforehand. And so I had flown in. I get to the hotel, and I'm about to pull my little rinky-dink rental car up, and Joe comes out and he's like, "Hey, can you give us a ride to the stadium?" And I'm like, "What do you mean us?" He said, Theo and I need a ride to the stadium."
Oh,
and I'm
sure.
Like, so there was Theo's first year with the Red Sox. So that worked out well, because I was able to go back and tell all the Red Sox people that I knew that I had to give their GM a ride because he wasn't old enough to drive. So we get to the ballpark, and at the time what I would do is, when I started visiting different ballparks, was I would send postcards through different guys, friends of mine throughout baseball, every time I went to a different ballpark. And actually, Jeff Idelson, the president of the Hall of Fame,
yeah.
he had a collection of them on the wall in his office, which I thought was kind of cool. It's probably the closest I'm going to get to being in Cooperstown. So I'm there writing the postcards, and Theo sees me, and he says, "Come on, Shaun, come down on the field." And I'm like, I don't belong on the field. So I'm down on the field, and Theo was a good example, because Theo he went around and he talked to all the players, and he had a good relationship, a good rapport. But the next thing is, I realize I'm sitting on the bench in the Red Sox dugout, and Manny Ramirez is one side of me talking to me in Spanish. My Spanish is almost as bad as my English. And Nomar Garcia Parra is on the other side, and he's going through the whole kind of things. And I'm just laughing to myself that if these guys had any idea how many times I cast aspersions on their manlyhood over the years of bartending, I said it would have been a very interesting story. And then I got to sit with Buck O'Neill, who was class act, who tried to maintain that he was Irish, but I decided to defer to him on that one. So that's so Kansas City is, I mean, truthfully, I have a top 5: Kansas City, Seattle, the 2 stadiums in Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh and Philly, and Target Field in
Minnesota.
But the one that would push them, also the new one in Atlanta, is beautiful.
Yes, it is, actually. I was there, I guess, with T-Bone for a little while, and that's a beautiful stadium.
Yeah, it's a beautiful park. It's a beautiful, the way they've done everything around the stadium, and it's just, and you don't have to deal with traffic, and it's a great park.
This is a trick question. Favorite sports writer in New York?
Does that go without saying?
Yes.
If I'm on the couch, you mean with the exception of my partner in crime, who's
I figured you'd say her.
Oh, without a doubt.
Okay.
Do you mean there are more? There are other sports writers?
I don't think there are. I think it's just Christy Acker.
No, that's it.
Favorite cereal?
Cornflakes with a banana.
Very nice. And favorite game that you've ever been to?
Oh, that's there's so many different answers to that question. I think for sheer emotion, Game 3 of the 2001 World Series, when Bush threw out the first pitch.
Yankees
that was that series. Actually, I was at games 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Wow.
Of that series. That was, that like you said, the emotion. I was at the first game the Yankees played after, when they came back from 9/11 against the Rays. There were some for different reasons. I was at Jeter's 3,000 hit game when he got the home run, but I'm not really a huge fan, so I'm going to leave that one there. And, I mean, the 2001 postseason, there were some great games. There were some great games played against.
Magic in the air, that whole series. It was like,
when they clinched against Seattle, that atmosphere there was a tremendous atmosphere at that game, because Aaron Seeley was pitching for Seattle, and no disrespect, never met the guy, but I think if we got 9 of our listeners and put them in Yankee uniforms, it could beat Aaron Seeley. And, so, I mean, this is the team that have won 116 games.
Yeah, it was like...
And the whole thing was like, the chant, I think that might have been when the hip, hip, hooray chant started for Posada. And every time Ichiro came to bat, all the chanted was sayonara.
Ichiro's rookie year, yeah. What a team that was.
So to pick a game, You know, I mean, that would be too hard. I mean, there've been, you know, I was at one of the last games Chipper played in Atlanta. I was actually was at the last game that Chipper played in Atlanta, the last two games. But no, I couldn't pick a game so much. And like you said, you know, there's countless other ones that I could come to mind.
That was a good answer. All right, so we went over this, but I'm just going to ask it again for the new people that joined. So we've seen the T-shirts, we've seen some of that stuff, gift cards. What can people do to help you guys right now? Is it subscribing just to stay in touch with Foley's? What can people do?
Well, keep an eye on, you know, I mean, obviously we have not been overly active on social media because, you know what, I mean, you know, there's at a time like this, it's just, you know, people need to do what they're supposed to be doing, which is hunker down, you know, shelter in place, you know, stay away from people. But people have asked what they can do. And like I said, for me, it's the staff, and people ask what to do. So if you go on our website and, you know, you can buy gift cards, you can buy shirts. And we actually, Stacia did a special shirt kind of to, I won't say to honor, but to kind of, you know, just like, you know, how you can, you know, stay in shape and stay healthy by staying at home or safer at home. And, you know, I appreciate everything that everybody has done. I look forward to when we can reopen the doors and welcome all these people back. And like you said, give them a chance to, you know, take their minds off
Everything that's been going on.
Everything that's been going on. And, you know, there's a lot of people, first responders. Oh, my son woke up. I guess.
50 Shades of Clans. I like that.
Yeah. So, hi, Ryan.
Hey, Ryan.
Ryan is a huge Mets fan. Actually, back to the whole thing about we're talking about baseballs and Joe McEwing. The first baseball I ever got was signed by Joe McEwing, and technically it wasn't even signed to me, it was signed to Ryan. So
there you go.
he'll get it back at some stage. So, but yeah, I mean, look, when this is, you know, like you said, we're in a holding pattern right now. All we can do is do what we can to help the people that we can, and a lot of times that means by staying out of their way. And you know, when our wonderful mayor and governor say, okay, it's time to come back, then you know, then we start the next chapter, and we you know, hopefully in a better place. And you know, again, I can't say enough for all the people that are working out there. And again, that's not just, you know, obviously the doctors and nurses, but the people in the supermarkets. My good friend Dave Wills, who does games for the Rays on the radio, his daughter Michelle works at Publix, and I mean, you know, she's been attacked by slice pans and stuff like this. But you know, my hat's off to all of those people. I thank all the people who are watching and listening, and my
and Ryan, because it's all because of Ryan.
It's all because of Ryan. He takes full credit. He takes full credit till his sister comes in and she will put him in.
He owns the credit.
Correct.
All right. So, Chris, thank you, Christy. Christy's explaining to our non-Irish audience, slice pan is bread. That's good. I didn't know that. I thought you were saying someone threw a pan at her.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
So we're going to do baseball cards now. Quickly, tell me what comes to mind when you see these people.
Okay, Nolan Ryan, member of the Irish American Baseball Hall of Fame. All I would say, but the quick story about Nolan Ryan was when we inducted him, he didn't come to New York, and I was but he's a very quiet, very shy guy. And we went down to induct him. He asked us to come down and to present him with his plaque on the field before a Rangers game. So we go down, and I'm in the dugout, and I'm looking down the dugout, and I'm thinking, oh my God, that's Nolan Ryan, you know. And I'm like, it was like a macabre moment because, you know, I mean, I was a huge baseball fan, so I grew up watching this guy, and, you know, I mean, I got married the same day that Robin Ventura got 8 hits of in one game, all to the head. But he walks up the dugout and he looks at me and he's like, "Are you Shaun?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm Shaun." He's like, "Hi, I'm Nolan. I've been dying to meet you." And I go, "Whoa.
Hi, I'm Nolan.
oh, that's my line. Great guy, but wonderful guy. Really cool dude.
Oh boy. All right. Next. Hold on one second. I almost knocked over my computer. We got Adam Dunn.
Adam Dunn. Truthfully, I can't tell you a lot about Mr. Dunn. He's in the Hall of Fame, but he was all gung-ho he wanted to be in, and, you know, we put him in, and then the same year that we put him in, or we announced we were putting him in, he got into the Reds Hall of Fame, and he disappeared. So he is MIA. So we're going to leave. His grade is incomplete.
Okay. Well, he can make it up in the future. Casey Stengel.
Casey Stengel. Most people don't know Casey was Irish, you know, and Casey was, you know, listening to Red Foley and Red tell stories about Casey. You know, the stories that Casey had were legend, and his lines were great, and you know, a very smart guy.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you know, he was switching and shifting and before a lot of these guys, you know, and you know, he was dumb like a fox, as one of my, you know, but you know, I mean, one of my favorite lines when they talked about the 62 Mets, and you know, they asked him one time and said, Casey, what's the 62 Mets missing? And he said, an embalmer.
That's a really reasonable understanding of the 62 Mets. Tug McGraw.
Tug McGraw. Sadly, never got to meet Tug before he passed. But what most people don't realize about Tug was all these green shirts that you see that the teams roll out on St. Patrick's Day. He started that. He asked the Phillies if they'd do it, and they refused. So he took his jersey and he dyed it green for St. Patrick's Day.
That's awesome.
Also, the coolest thing, when we inducted him, his son Mark came to the induction, not Tim. But I thought was kind of cool was when the 08 World Series, when the Phillies, they had Tim McGraw throw out the first pitch, and he brought some of Tug's ashes out in a bottle and sprinkled them on the mound. That's
really, really cool. See, that's inside baseball, Shaun. Rusty Staub. I bet you met Rusty.
You know, Rusty's birthday was today, and I did meet Rusty, you know, in the Grand Orange. Obviously, people didn't realize he was Irish, but he was half Irish. Class act, I mean, there's a guy who gave back. I mean, what he did for, you know, the families of firefighters. And as people, he's probably done something I don't think anyone will ever do. He had 500 RBIs with 4 different teams.
Yeah, he's a borderline Hall of Famer. I've seen the argument made a lot of times, and if you look at his
Rusty, you know what it is? The thing about Rusty is Rusty's one of the, you know, I mean, he's a part. If it was now, he'd get in. You know, I mean, if you ask me, Rusty, you know, the Hall of Fame is for great players. Rusty was very good.
Yeah. All right, so we got a couple minutes left because we started late. So 2 more questions. You have so much cool stuff at Foley's. My favorite one that I know you have from Tom Giordano, he's got a press credential, and when you had the memorial there, it says very blatantly, no autographs, as all credentials do. And you guys figured out to honor him, you'd have everybody sign it. You got his great-grandchildren's names signed on there.
Yeah.
So that one means a lot to me. What is the most meaningful to you of all your Foley's memorabilia?
To be honest with you, that's a tough question because, you know, there are so many great stories that go with so many of the different pieces that are there. I mean, one of the newest pieces that obviously is right up there, and there's a bone connection, is I have a baseball. I actually got it that day. His daughter Gail gave it to me. I have a baseball signed by Pope John Paul II, who's a saint. So as I like to now tell people, I have 4,000 baseballs at Foley's, 1 signed by a saint, and one signed by a bona fide saint, and 4,000 signed by sinners.
There you go.
I mean, but apart from that, I mean, it would be so hard. I mean, if we were in Foley's now, you know, you pick any display case, you pick, you know, and there's a story behind, you know, either the getting of it or the person who gave it to me, you know, and you know, when we did the memorial for Bowen, I just thought it was a nice way to recognize the people that not just like his grandchildren, but or his great grandchildren, but his brothers.
Yeah,
his 2 brothers were there. Jay Bone saved my life at a minor league game, actually, about 3 miles from where I'm sitting right now in Dunedin, where this kid, like this 4-year-old kid that was like 3 feet away from me, was about to smash a baseball into my face, and Jay Bone's, you know, lightning flash reflexes at 85 saved my life. But
He was on the New Jersey tolls for his whole life. He's got the quick.
Yes, he's got a quick hook. But that, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you know, so you ask about unusual pieces. Red didn't like the Mets, but he traveled back then. Back then, the writers traveled with the teams. So Red had Mets luggage, like a suit holder that traveled with the team. But to stick it to the Mets, the luggage tag on his luggage was a Yankee luggage tag. You know, so I mean, it's that would have been the '60s. Yeah, the '60s. I mean, Red. It's funny. He would have, you know, back then it was like Red for any of our listeners who don't know. Red was this tiny little. He looked like Mr. Magoo, you know. But the funny thing about it was Red could hit. He was not much of a sports player, but Red could hit. So back when they still do, but when they would play media games. Red would take part, and Red could handle the bat. And the great story was that in one of these media games, I remember this is the old Yankee Stadium with the outfield. Red hit a ball off the outfield wall, which is quite a shot.
Yeah,
but he only got to second. So the next day or the day after, he's on the charter sitting next to Ralph Houck, who was managing the Yankees, and Houck was, I think, punching duty would be a nice way of saying he wasn't much of a hitter. Yeah. So Houck is busting Red's balls about, I can't believe you hit a ball off the wall and you only got to second. He said, if I'd have hit the ball, he said, I would have gone to third. And Red turned to Houck and he's like, yeah, he says, but who would you have got to hit for you? You know, so, you know, but the memorabilia, I mean, it's, I like the unusual stuff, you know. I mean, I don't have the original, but I have a copy of the infamous scorecard that Mickey Callaway took.
Yes. Where they batted out of order.
They batted out of order. I mean, I've got a Jason Tyner bobblehead that never got released. Jeez. You know, I have the very last out of Dennis Martinez's perfect game. I also have the home plate umpire's mask from Roy Halladay's perfect game, signed by
really?
and a baseball signed by Halladay. So
that's amazing.
You know,
we just talked about him on the last show. He passed away way too soon. That was a sad one.
Jesse, I got to be honest with you. You know, is there anybody, with the exception of Carol Baskin's husband, who doesn't pass away too soon?
No, I don't think so.
You know, I mean, even our good friend Bowen, and him almost 95.
He had like 20 more years in him.
Oh, I mean, I saw him 2 days before he passed, and I didn't for 1 second think he was that. I was making plans to go back and see him again. You know, I didn't think he was going to go. I mean, you know, like you said, he was so full of life, and he was so nice to a lot of people, and he loved the game of baseball, and he had, boy, did he have stories.
Yes, he did. And you mentioned Dennis Martinez and that ball. So Billy and T-Bone went when we were making the documentary. Went with Luke down to Costa Rica on a day's notice. I was supposed to go down to film T-Bone in Florida. He calls me maybe 3 days before, and he's freaking out. He's like, listen, I know you're coming down. I know you already have the tickets. I'm going to Costa Rica. I said, what, Bone? He's like, yeah, I got to go get my teeth fixed because they broke at the New York Scouts dinner. So I'm just like, you know what? I guess we're sending someone to Costa Rica. So Luke went with them to Costa Rica. Me and Matt go to Florida. We interview people in Florida. And when they're in Costa Rica, they meet a guy completely randomly, and Billy Coppola could tell this story better, but they meet a guy completely randomly, and they start talking about baseball players. They go to this stadium, which they found they had a lot of time. Oh, they just found a baseball stadium in the middle of Costa Rica. And they start talking to this guy, and he says, yeah, I know a lot of players. I know people in Nicaragua. And T-Bone goes, Nicaragua? You know the best player from Nicaragua? And the guy goes, Dennis Martinez. And T-Bone goes, yeah, that's my friend. And the guy goes, oh, well, that's my friend too. So, of course, T-Bone says, get him on the phone right now. And the guy says, you want me to call Dennis Martinez right now? T-Bone says, yeah, call him. So he calls him, and T-Bone has a 20-minute conversation with Dennis Martinez. It's just like, that's the baseball thing, is no matter where you are in the world, and the T-Bone thing, too.
Yeah.
You meet somebody and just...
Kevin Bacon's got nothing on Bowen when it comes to 6 degrees of separation.
Exactly right.
The sad part about that trip was, I think that's where Bowen was. That was the trip that his wife passed
when
away.
Bernice passed away. Exactly. Yeah.
Mrs. Bowen, the only person who could keep manners on him.
Yeah, Mrs.
And
I love that you call Bernice Mrs. Bone.
And actually, Gail, their Bowen's daughter, she's stuck in Australia.
She is. They're quarantined. They were on a cruise for what?
The quarantine. She's supposed to pick every night of what they have for dinner. I mean, it's basically like they're quarantined with Gordon Ramsay, whoever's doing the cooking.
They know how to cook. She got it from her dad.
She certainly did.
So I got one more question for you, my final question. But before I do that, is there anything else you want to throw out there? Stories, things we didn't cover?
I think we got a good bit of it covered for now. I mean, like you said, maybe we can do maybe we can do this from Foley's.
That'd be really great. Yeah, absolutely. You pick the guest and you can host it with me.
Oh no, we do it from Foley's when we launched the Jesse Manning burger, stuffed with cupcakes.
With cupcakes, thanks to Billy Capola. All right, so then last question for you. What does baseball mean to you, Shaun?
Baseball means to me, baseball is family. We may not. I have. That's what it means to me. It's like, you know, we're all a family, and I have met so many great people through the great game of baseball, and it's, you know, like, you know what. For when you're watching baseball or you're talking baseball, like you said, it's an escapism. And we're not worried about what's going on outside, and we're not worried about, you know, what problems we have to face. That's what baseball is to me. And the beauty of Joe Madden and his shifts. The game hadn't changed in 100 years.
There you go. That was like the most eloquent answer that I think we've gotten, and the most simple answer. And then you reconnected, but family. If we boil it down, I think that is the most beautiful thing. Baseball is absolutely a family. Thank you to everybody that tuned in. We had a lot of people from all over the country and all over the world, thanks to you, Shaun. So that's pretty cool. So for Shaun Clancy, owner of Foley's New York Pub and Restaurant, as well, all the best to you, see. The love is pouring in. Thank you to you, Shaun. You started the Irish American Baseball Hall of Fame for all the good work you're doing for your staff. That's just such an amazing thing that you're keeping your staff on and are able to figure that out even during this. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you to Business Lunch Productions, to the Scouts Association. This has been Shaun Clancy's ABCs, and we'll see you on Monday for our next episode. Shaun, we'll definitely do this again from Foley's.
For sure. Take care, Jesse, and good luck, and be safe to everybody out there.
Same to you, Shaun. Thanks a lot, man.